I want you to picture for just a second what it would have been like to sit in the meeting I was sitting in. I was sitting in a meeting, and there was someone else in charge of the meeting, and what they did was they started defining who would do what. You'll do this, you'll do this. I'm going to need you to do this, and you to do this. And at one point, they looked at me, and they gave me a task. Do you really think I thought about anything else other than my one task? I didn't. I didn't, because the way the meeting was run, the way the interaction happened, it made it feel like I was really just responsible for one task, not how it fit into the bigger whole. Have you been in meetings like that? Have you been in meetings where you're assigned a task and then you just say, okay, let's put blinders on, let's just run at that task? This isn't really an issue of virtual or not virtual. This isn't remote or not remote. This is just the way we work as people. If I, as a supervisor, assign tasks to people, guess what happens? I end up owning the tasks. They may do the task, but I still own it. If you want to be different, if you want to work different, and if you want your teams to perform more effectively, you need to work different. You need to approach task assignment and allocation different. Responsibility assignment different. And that's why the first step is to focus on roles and goals, not tasks. When you focus on roles and goals, you tell someone, this is the role that I need you to play. Whether it's QA analyst, or whether it's software designer, or whether it's developer, whether it's a graphic designer, you say, this is the role I need you to play. And then you say, this is the goal we're going after. This is what we have to care about. And then you let other people, those people in those roles, define for themselves, well then, if that's the case, these are the tasks we have to go after. And when you do that, when you step back and get out of the way of assigning tasks, what you'll discover is, whether you're remote or local, you'll discover that they now own the work because they defined it, because they believed in it, because they were thinking about the bigger picture, because you articulated a goal. And that's our first point. I don't know if you have been in conversations or dialogues like the ones I've been in. I don't know if you've gotten into the religious wars, the debates, the furious fights that people have. I don't know if you've gotten to the point where you've thrown your hands up and said, I don't care. Like, whatever, just pick one and we're done. I'm not talking about operating systems. I'm not talking about computer platforms. I'm talking about the tools we use to help task management, the tools we use to do project management, the tools we use for distributed communication. And if you've been in organizations like I have, it can be a 6-month, 8-month battle, fight, politics, people yelling and screaming and stomping out of rooms because you haven't chosen what they thought was the best platform. Because you didn't pick the solution or use even the solution that they picked. You didn't use it the way they wanted you to. Basecamp, no Basecamp, right? Microsoft Project, no Microsoft Project. I know a company that's doing their proposals in GitHub, right? Because they could just do version control on text. There are tons of tools out there. Here's the thing you need to understand. No tool is going to work the way you want it to work. No tool is going to be perfect for you. You're going to get to the point where you look at a tool and you say, oh, if it could just do this, this, and this. And I know there's developers here who are thinking, I'll just code it up. I'll code it up via the API. I'll integrate it. I'll do whatever. Right? You pick up Atlassian and you're like, let's just use some of these tools and we'll tap into the APIs and go from there. In fact, I know some developers in here who are like, no. Let's just build it from scratch, right? Let's just build our own tool. You know you do it, right? Because you're like, oh, I think I can pull this off. And here's the problem. When we start looking for the perfect tool, when we start thinking that we can define the perfect tool, when we start thinking that we know the perfect tool, We then start investing in the perfect tool, and we invest, and it's a little bit, it's a side project for a little bit until you discover that now you're making trade-offs between client work or product work and your own internal tools work. Because you're trying to figure out what's right. You're trying to figure out how to do it perfectly. You're trying to put your process embedded into everything of the tool and shortcut your way to nirvana. And here's the problem. You're making trade-offs against clients, you're making trade-offs against your products, you're making trade-offs left and right. And when you look at it at the end of the day, you've spent $80, $90, $100,000 on a tool internally that you could have spent 10, 15 bucks a month on. I know, right now in your head, you're creating the list of all the things that I don't understand about your organization. I'll give it to you. I don't know everything. Here's what I know. There is no perfect tool. There's no perfect software tool, so stop looking for it. At the end of the day, your best move is to pick one, preferably without committee, preferably without wasting any time. Just pick one, say this is what we're going to use, and then spend your time trying to figure out how to tweak some of your processes so that they work inside it. We use Basecamp. My job, my company, we use Basecamp. But we don't use Basecamp like normal people use Basecamp. In fact, when you see projects on the right side, we don't actually have projects there. We name our projects status codes, right? Our client section is called status codes. People are like, that doesn't make any sense. It does to us because we've made it work the way we want it to work. And we've had to adjust some of the ways we work to work with the tool. But we don't spend an ounce on internal tools related to it. And that means we can focus on building out products. There is no perfect software for virtual team management. It just doesn't exist. And it's unlikely that you're going to make the next perfect one, and it's unlikely that you're going to be able to leverage it completely without much internal cost and turn around and monetize it. It's not reality. So I suggest you pick one and go from there. Our third point is related to fun. It's related to play. And I know that this is going to sound like an odd point. I know that you came in and thought, okay, he's going to give us tips and tools, techniques and tricks, and all of this is going to be profound and interesting. Well, I'm sorry, right? This is not profound or interesting. This is just the truth. That in order for your teams to deliver high value, in order for their teams, especially remote, to be able to work together and deliver on something that's truly remarkable, that does require people to push themselves harder than normally they would, you need trust. It's a no-brainer. You know it already, right? It's not rocket science. You've already figured it out. People who trust each other are going to end up being more effective with one another than people who don't trust each other. And trust me, if you don't trust each other, forget it. You're not getting anything done. Well, what does that have to do with my third point? We tend to think that trust is earned over a long period of time. You just have to spend time with people for a long time, and then you'll trust them. Let me ask you this. How many of you have friends on Facebook that you've now known 25 years because you went to high school with them, or you know them 15 years because you went to high school with them? Do you trust them anymore? It's not the case. Trust isn't developed simply because you know someone a long time. Other people will say, oh, trust is all about reliability. Trust is about doing what you said you're going to do. But I know people who would never pick me up. Even though they said they'll pick me up at the airport, they'll never pick me up on time. They are not reliable. I still trust them. Trust and reliability are not the same thing. What am I getting at? You can create the context for where people develop trust. You can create that context in the guise of having fun. I know that there are all sorts of folks who will tell you, you want to limit what kind of internet access people have when they're working on the job, or especially when they're working out of their home. I mean, you don't know what they're going to do. In our organization, in our group, and I manage folks on 6 different countries, we have a fantasy football league. We have a World Cup league where we're guessing who's going to win what, and we're playing. I mean, it's playtime, and it's a part of our team. Because what happens is it's the social glue. It's the fun. Now, we have a ping pong table. We have in some of our physical offices where people hang out, we actually have places where people can go and compete and play. They shoot little basketball hoops, and they're looking to see who has the highest score. Right? I know, because I was visiting the campus the other day, and I pulled up a chair, stood up next to the basketball hoop, and just dropped balls in one after another so I could set the new high score and then take off out of town to leave them all frustrated because they didn't know who had gotten this new high score. But we're having fun. And when we're having fun, we're building relationship. And when we're building relationship, we're building trust. And the reality is, you can accelerate the development of trust if you create the context for having fun. And that's our next point. Instead of stopping the playfulness, embrace it. Create, if you're using HipChat and people are talking back and forth, create a water cooler area where people can post animated GIFs, right? It's fun, it's cute, it's, and I know there's someone in here who's thinking, that's just distracting, that's just gonna waste my time. It's not distracting if it's developing the relationship you need to be able to do the harder things you're gonna need to do come late night or even on the weekend. So, build in playfulness. We were sitting, a group of us, my team, in a hotel in Phoenix. Phoenix is in the southwest part of the United States, and we were sitting there, and we had rented a series of hotel rooms, but my room was a little bit bigger, and we had gone to the cafeteria, and we had taken one of the tables and brought it into the room so that we could put seats around it, and we could sit there and work together. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Chris, you just stepped into the wrong part of the talk because we're all doing this remote and virtual thing. And there are some people who will tell you that remote and virtual is the only way to go, and it's the best way to go. And I've been managing virtual teams since 1996. So I can tell you, virtual is awesome. But here's the thing. Every now and then you want to take an entire team, you want to level up. You want to go and do a deep dive into some technology. You want to get closer and build more trust. And to do that, you're going to need some time in close proximity. To do that, you're going to need to spend some time together. And that's why we were in Phoenix, in a hotel room. These guys were all .NET developers, and this was the 2-week period where we were going to dig into Ruby and dig into NoSQL databases. And the first couple of days was miserable. They hated it. But they were learning. And more importantly, they were suffering. And most importantly, they were suffering together. And because they were suffering together, they were building tighter relationships. And when one person figured out how to make things better, they all figured out how to make things better. There's a debate going on about whether or not you should be a company that has physical offices and everybody comes to the office because of all the benefit that gives you. Or the other side of it is you can find the best talent in remote locations and just bring them in virtually and build a team that way. And here's my answer. Stop debating local versus remote. Go hybrid. When you go hybrid, you get the best of both worlds. You get the best talent wherever they're located, and you create moments and opportunities where you can pull them together. And when you do that right, you get the best of both sides of that argument. I know designers and developers who like to talk about their effort. They like to talk about their activities. They spend time telling you what they're doing every day. And they want a pat on the back more often than not because they got part of the way to the end goal. But you don't celebrate when you're getting part of the way. You celebrate when you're done. And done isn't, I've asked developers, are you done? And they're like, yeah, except I got to do this. Or, are you done? Yeah, but now I have to do this. And all I hear is a bunch of yeah, but, yeah, except, yeah, now someone else has to do something. And all you're doing is modifying. You're modifying done, which is what I don't want. I want to celebrate accomplishment, not activity. And that's why I teach my teams the phrase done, done. Done, done means that at the end of done, when I say is it done, they can say it's done, and they don't have any other words afterward except done. That's it. Done, done. And that's when we celebrate. And that will help your teams develop a culture of performance.